Whew, this is gonna suck. But this Band-Aid has been needing to be ripped off for years. To my friends and family who I have not already confined in, I'm an atheist. Bam. Done. I'm a godless heathen and I don't believe in a sky daddy, just like I stopped believing in Santa Claus. Oh, but the painful part out of the way, those that want to stick around for the video can see my reasoning for yourself. Let's roll the footage. Reason 1. If the Christian God is real, he's a moral monster. He is responsible for more acts of genocide than Hitler or Stalin, more hatred than even the Westboro Baptist Church can contain. And I hate to break it to you, but the Westboro Baptist Church, they're about as close as you can get to true Christians who truly follow the Bible. That's awfully telling. The God in the Bible is a reprehensible bully, and if the pages in the Bible are even remotely true, he is responsible for far too many counts of terrorism in his age. And he's an infanticidal, genocidal, megalomaniacal, filicidal, homophobic, racist, jealous, pestilential, unjust, bigoted bully. Reason 2. If you start to refute and reinterpret the Bible so it fits better into your personal moral compass, that's just as disgusting as following biblical law to the letter. Now, not only are you following a book that advocates slavery, genocide, genital mutilation, homophobia, racism, and throwing babies onto the ground to kill them while being happy about it, or blessed, depending on your interpretation, you're being personally dishonest and lying to yourself about your own beliefs. It's bad to follow a bad religion, but I'd argue it's worse to lie to yourself so that you can continue following it after refuting it and its so-called inerrant text. Reason number 3. There is no evidence for God's existence. Zero. None. Look around you. Abiogenesis and evolution do a more accurate job explaining how everything is the way it is today than a Bronze Age holy text no one can come to a consensus on or ever has. All documentation of God's existence is in the Bible alone, and outside sources have been proved to be a forgery in some form or fashion each and every time, from the debunked Shroud of Torel to the writings of Josephus having obvious post-mortem alterations to the books in the Bible that were named after the apostles being written decades after their passing with no documentation as to who actually wrote those fictitious articles. You can even tell with a rudimentary study of the books accredited to the apostles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that their stories about Jesus vary and are sorely inconsistent with one another, and each of them grasps for the most ludicrous of straws to try to make Jesus fulfill fictitious Old Testament prophecy. Why do you think Islam and Jewish faiths have no problem dismissing Jesus? Their stories use many of the same foundations. They've just been interpreted differently over the years to come up with completely different religions. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that Christianity, which is by no means the earliest religion, has its roots in Judaism? Why does Judaism have its roots in pagan religions? The Bible itself mentions other gods, among which are Baal and God's Father himself. And I'm not talking about Jesus' Father of the Trinity, but the Bible mentions another Father for God, Yahweh, your one and only deity. He has a father in the Old Testament. Why is this? Because even Christianity has its origins in other religions, which find their origins in other religions that can be traced back until you hit the point where we are trying to explain earthquakes, diseases, lightning, and everything else with supernatural causes. Which leads me to reason 4. Reason 4, the god of the gaps. Why, in Greek mythology, do we have Zeus for lightning, Poseidon for water, Ares for war, Hades for the afterlife, and explanatory gods for everything in existence? That's because gods began as explanatory mechanisms for things we did not yet understand. Gods don't just offer explanations for happenstances in the world, though. They actively throttle progress and acquisition of knowledge. If we just said Zeus, or Thor, or Yahweh, made lightning and left it at that, we would never try to harness electricity. If we just attributed Mars, Ares, or, well, Yahweh, to giving their aid to armies in war, we would never try to work towards peace. God explains nothing. Gods explain nothing. But they can explain away everything. Thunder? It's not angels bowling in the fucking sky. I find it abhorrent when people attribute prayer to having healing properties when their loved ones are in a modern-day hospital receiving aid from trained medical staff doing their damnedest to save your loved one with all their heart and soul, and you have the audacity to take away their efforts and give that glory to some arbitrary Bronze Age prick in the sky. That's disgusting, and it's intellectually dishonest, and it is personally appalling. I find it detestable when people refute the progress of science and the good that it has done in the world, but they're informing other intellectually dishonest people through the power of a modern-day smartphone. Fruits of science, mathematics, and advances in technology that have already surpassed gods in their wonders. God made a pillar of fire for the Jews? I have a lighter. God rained fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah? We have nuclear bombs. God is all-seeing? We have cameras trained on us at all times from smartphones we buy ourselves at the market. The God of the gaps, day by day, runs out of gaps in our knowledge to fill. And one day, when we've discovered enough of the world we live in, maybe people will stop turning to this cult-like mindset for knowledge and comfort. Reason number 5. You don't need God for comfort. I have friends with dead or dying family members that they will never see again post-mortem. I find it disgusting that religion would stunt the grieving process and prevent these people I love dearly from coping with the truth of the matter by offering unfalsifiable claims that they will see their loved ones again. A comforting lie about the state of a deceased loved one is what parents use to soften the blow of a dead pet to their young child. Grow up and accept reality. Move on. Live your life for those loved ones. Live for those you've lost. For one day, you too will be nothing but a memory for those you loved. Make sure you were a good enough memory for them, because you will not be getting a chance in any supposed afterlife. And if you feel like you need religion for some sense of community, there are communities everywhere who will have similar interests to you and will be better company than a group of people whose only thing in common on the surface is intellectual dishonesty with one another. To quote Matt Dillahunty, you don't have to go to the Second Baptist Church to ask what's wrong with the First Baptist Church. You just have to go to the second pew and ask what's wrong with the first one. And finally, reason number 6, why I truly became an atheist. And honestly, it's because I studied the Bible. I studied the Bible enough to lead me to want to be a theologian of all things. I studied other religions at a rudimentary level and began to notice certain patterns. Each one had many of the same stories, a global flood, a resurrection. These things just kept on lining up, and they only changed for the time, religion, region, and ethnicity of the people that existed in their respective spots in the world. They couldn't all be right, but surely they could definitely, certainly, all be wrong. What makes you think that out of over 4,200 religions and sub-denominations, that yours, and only yours, is correct? That's arrogant thinking of the highest degree. If you are religious, and you are a Christian, congratulations. You're already 99.9% atheist. You've refuted 99.9% of other gods that have existed throughout the ages. They were all just silly stories told by primitive folk in an attempt to explain the universe. Why should one Jewish one be that much more of a stretch? If you're a loved one of mine and this offends you, or you're worried for my soul, don't be. I'm happier now than I ever was as a Christian, wrestling with the implications of my faith. I don't need a supposed soul, a deity, or any other supernatural nonsense to give me happiness, purpose, and fulfillment. And here's the thing. Neither do you.